live and online. It's Sleepless with Steve and the Movie Book Club with your host, Steve Pulaski.
Back and better than ever. It's Sleepless with Steve. We're live on YouTube on this Wednesday evening. Back a regular time too. I think were we off schedule last week? Did we do it early last week? I think, or was that the previous week?
I want to say that was the previous week.
I think so, yeah, because I had the Over Your Dead Body screening. I want to say that's been 2 weeks. This has been a long month.
Our schedule has been gotten more and more fraught as the years goes on. But you know what? If anything, that's just a reflection of how we're recovering from COVID. In some ways we haven't, but in this case we have, in the sense that we're finally breaking free of the schedule.
Yes, indeed. And we are back Wednesday evening, 6:30 Central Time, like we should be. Keep up with the ebbs and flows. That's really what it's about. We are talking Michael today, the brand new biopic on the late Michael Jackson, directed by Antoine Fuqua, is how you say his name. Got to be very careful saying his name. If you say it incorrectly, there's a good chance you utter an obscenity or something. But saying his name on the radio too, I was like really like almost wanted to write it out, Fuqua, you know. Mm-hmm. But Anyway, Michael, the movie we're tackling today, this beast of a biopic, which for some reason box office analysts were really underestimating the pull that this movie was going to have. I saw this thing as an $80-90 million opening weekend type of movie, and that's exactly what it was. So far, to date, it came out Thursday, remember that, $237.6 million. There is a solid chance this thing makes $1 billion or comes damn close to it. This is going to, I think, be probably, when all's said and done, the highest grossing music biopic of all time. I'd be interested to see where it ranks in totality amongst like biographies too, just in general. So I think it's going to be a fascinating case study to watch over the next couple of weeks too. But it's getting people out to the theater, I'll say that much. I won't complain about that. But we're going to talk Michael today, though. There's a lot to talk about. Joe Viso should be joining us here shortly. I know he's a little bit delayed. I know he had some work obligations and stuff like that. So Dominic Guanzon is graciously hosting this iteration of Sleepless with Steve. So thank you very much for that, Dom. How are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. I am getting increasingly embroiled in other endeavors, but I always hold firm to make room for this show in some capacity. I've been taking, as we were talking about the schedule, I've been taking more and more days off from the show, from, seeing a little less movies, unfortunately. But no matter what, I do truly hold movies really close to my heart. And this time that we have together with the mostly three of us, and I am, I don't know why I went in that direction, but honestly, it's like, this is gonna be a crazy summer for in general for everyone. But being a photographer is just crazy in and of itself, and I'm finally seeping myself into that life a little more professionally. So. Anyway, how I've been doing? Yeah, I'm doing all right. I'm doing as good as I can.
No, and I really appreciate you making the time too, because you're kind of like me. You have a lot of different ventures and stuff like that too, and it, you're juggling a lot too. So the fact that you still make time for this on a recurring basis and whatnot is definitely something I value and I truly appreciate, though. So thank you for that. And especially hosting in a pinch too, you know what I mean? So that's incredible as well.
You think you'll be able to do it someday?
Maybe if I upgrade my laptop eventually. You guys do it so well though. That's the problem. It's like I find people that can do what I can't do, and then I rely on them.
That's called building a team. No, I have a beefier computer, so I understand.
I was gonna say thinly veiled shot right there, but I take it. I take it as the lazy one on my own show. But anyway, though, we are going to tackle Michael today. Joe just chimed in on the group chat. He said he should be joining here very soon, so look forward to that. We'll let him go third then, just in general thoughts. So this movie, I think there's some confusion as to what this movie actually is, because we've been hearing a lot about it. This movie's been in the works for a few years, and it is it was originally going to be a more comprehensive movie in the regard that it was going to actually probe the child abuse allegations of Michael
Whew.
Jackson. And essentially, what it came down to was that one of the accusers of Jackson, due to an previously outstanding lawsuit, was barred from his name being used in media. Now, how the hell they didn't know that, or how the hell they went about shooting all this stuff for it and all those scenes and going through with production and weren't made aware of that, with how many hundreds of upwards of 1,000 people worked on this thing is kind of astonishing to
Mm-hmm.
me. And then those in boardrooms, those executives and everything in like that were, in Lionsgate. It's kind of surprising to me how nobody figured that out until it was too late, until it was a sunk cost. But essentially, due to a lawsuit involving one of the accusers, their name could not be used. And this was not revealed or discovered or litigated until they had shot all the third act. So what they had to do was spend, I think, another 20-ish million dollars to reshoot the third act of the movie. And that ballooned the budget. This is already a deceptively expensive movie. This movie cost anywhere from 165 million to 200 million dollars, which is shocking. By comparison, I just want to take a look at it right here. By comparison, the Bohemian Rhapsody movie, which I've used as kind of a basis of comparison to this movie for a lot of different reasons, Bohemian Rhapsody was $50 million. So this thing cost the price of four of them.
Wow.
If you're estimating high. Now, what this is, though, essentially, this movie looks at Michael Jackson from the late 60s when he was growing up in Gary, Indiana, as the front man of the Jackson Five, the front boy, rather, to about 1988 at the dawn of the Bad Tour. That's kind of the chunk. That's about a 20-year chunk that this movie looks at. So it stopped short. The allegations started popping up in the early 90s. So that's about where this thing cuts off.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's funny because I saw something with Fuqua, Antoine Fuqua, the director of this movie. He came out and said, like, you could tell it was, I don't think he wrote it. It was more of a statement than an interview. But you could tell it was kind of written for him like an agent, where it said, like, the Michael movie you saw was not the movie we set out to make, but it's a movie I hope will touch a lot of people and make them remember the King of Pop. And, a lot of words, corporate approved word salad. But this, in a lot of ways, you can tell, especially towards the end, was not the movie that they were looking to make, because with biopics, there's generally like a rise and fall and rise structure. This movie is one pretty much continuous rise, pretty much one continuous rise with one background conflict, which is Michael's dad, who was also his manager, Joe Jackson, played here by Coleman Domingo. And those are essentially like the two characters in the movie, too. You get a little bit with Miles Teller, who plays an entertainment lawyer, who, my God, I mean, did Miles Teller grow up or what? Did you recognize him at first?
I did, because he still has a distinctive face, but the makeup team did a great job. But yeah, he looked older in this one for sure.
What's going on, Joe? Great to see you, man.
Hey, guys, sorry I'm late.
No, you're good.
You are totally fine.
Look at that, he
When
dressed
first-
up for this.
I know, right?
Hold
Look
on,
at
does he have
that.
the fedora and a white glove? What's he about to do?
I also have a Pepsi in my hand. What's that? What's happening above me?
Anything more and your hair's gonna catch on fire.
But when I almost didn't recognize Miles Teller when I first saw him. My dad joke I made to Catherine, I said, man, he is officially Kilometers Teller. Like, I didn't even recognize him.
Shut the hell up.
So anyway, hopefully I'm not having mic issues. Hopefully
hear
I'm not
you.
having mic. Okay, perfect. Perfect. But this movie, though, essentially is like one long continuous rise. And it's a little outside of the Joe Jackson, father-son conflict. Manager-client conflict is kind of more like it. There's not a lot of conflict in this thing. It's really kind of structured like a comprehensive biopic, as comprehensive as it could be from 1968 to 1988. I don't know about you guys, but two of the best biopics of recent years was probably the Bob Dylan biopic, A Complete Unknown, with Timothy Chalamet, and the Springsteen biopic, Deliver Me from Nowhere, with Jeremy Allen White. And what I liked about both of those movies is the fact that the Bob Dylan movie, focused on his transition, the twilight of his acoustic era into his electric era, about a 2-3 year span. The Springsteen movie focused on the production of his Nebraska album. And I thought it was a crap movie. It was one of the worst movies of the year. But to its credit, Bob Marley One Love took place over the course of about 3 years. So to its credit, it at least narrowed down the period. That was not one of the problems of the movie. When you get these movies, when you get these biopics that try to condense 20 years or more into 2 hours, it inevitably feels truncated. It inevitably kind of feels jerky a little bit. And I don't want to harp on it because I do think there's a lot of positive things about this movie, quite frankly. I know it's been getting eviscerated by critics. I think there's at least a few really strong things that this movie does. But between the reshoots that were abundantly clear by the way the third act's handled, and then just the scope of this thing, it does really feel sanitized, and it feels very brief, despite being over 2 hours. We'll go Dom, and then you, Joe.
Yeah, I pretty much came to the same conclusion with you on that biography thing, where I was like, oh, they're really starting with Motown, and they're really hanging around for a few minutes on this, aren't they? And for me, the go-to comparison really for any biopic is Lincoln, starring, oh goodness, There Will Be Blood's
Daniel Day-Lewis.
Thank you, Daniel Day-Lewis. And I was like, yeah, everyone does Abraham Lincoln the same way, right? He's a log cabin guy, and then all the way through his assassination, like every single beat, every single time, except Lincoln. And I'm sure others, but that's the best example. Steven Spielberg's Lincoln is that, no, it is just focusing on passing the amendment that will free the slaves, the 13th Amendment. And that's it, right? And then you can grab everything else from his character, from his moxie, from his background, and everything from that moment. Everything, and characters can even reference other parts of the main character's life in that way, and that makes for a thrilling story because you can hone in. Then this movie, unfortunately, really does commit the sin of it's an inherent sin, an original sin that many biopics do. And it's not impossible, right? I'm not saying that's an instant disaster if a movie does that, but it is an uphill battle for me, at least. And I think for many, you can write yourself into a hole. And I think that, for Michael, this movie, it really became apparent when we were hanging around for those songs a little too long, where it's like, bro, it's Michael Jackson. We know, everyone knows all of these songs. It is statistically the most selling album of all time. Like, you can prove that. You can actually say that. And it's like, I don't know if we needed this much time on it. And I think the inherent flaws really come down to the writing and the shaping of this thing. And there's a plethora of things we can go into. I'm actually going to stop there and see where we land. Maybe we'll bounce off what Joe's about to say, but I got like multiple branches of where I'm like the Jackson family. There's like 8 children and they all have a story, but we're only going to focus on this one kid, right? So anyway, go ahead, Joe.
One thing I wanted to add on, Steve, when you were talking about like, when a biopic focuses on like years and years of like a person, especially when it's a younger actor playing the same character, and then it's like, oh, that's how you know, like, they're gonna cover way too much for one movie and make it kind of feel a little bit too generalized, even for a topic that, especially for a topic that a lot of people probably already know, which is Michael Jackson. For me, I was looking forward to this movie because the director made one of my favorite movies, Training Day. I love Training Day. I think it's cool that, and as much as people are like, the whole Nepo baby thing and whatnot, but I think it's cool Jafar Jackson is playing his uncle, Michael.
I agree.
That works.
I think that's really cool.
I have no problem with that.
I got no problem with that either, honestly. And it's really cool because there are times throughout the movie where, especially when he's first starting his like solo stuff, he does look like Michael a ton, especially from the side profile. It's like, oh shit, like this is actually really cool how they're
There
doing
are
that.
there are fluttering moments, not to interrupt you, Joe. There are fluttering moments in this thing where he is uncanny in the
Yeah.
way that he looks like him, and he
The Thriller
sings.
music video is like me, like when it hit me, I was like, I know it's makeup, but man, does that look identical to Michael when that makeup on.
And he sings like in a lot of this movie too.
Yeah.
Like they vocal blend him a few times, from what I've read. They vocal blended him and Michael, but there's a few times where he is the one singing, and
Yeah.
it is gorgeous. Jafar Jackson. He's Jermaine's kid. I didn't mention that earlier. He's Jermaine's son, for what it's worth.
Yeah. And what was it? Even the younger version of Michael, played by Giuliano Valdi. I thought even as the younger version of Michael, that kid did great too.
Yeah, he's
Like,
not
it
gonna
was
get the
just like-
credit, but he was
He's
good.
not. He's not. Unfortunately, he's not. Everybody's gonna be looking at Jafar Jackson because of who he is as a person. But I want to give a shout out to Giuliano because he did really good when he was still the Jackson 5 and everything. They were doing all that stuff early on in the movie, which for me, that was probably some of my favorite parts of the movie is when it was the Jackson 5 and it's with Joe Jackson and the rest of his brothers, even though his brothers do kind of not really get any character development whatsoever. They're kind of just there. But the movie is called Michael, so I'm not going to harp on that too much. I just wish they got a little bit of development. Instead, it's similar to Bohemian Rhapsody, where it's like Freddie Mercury got all the development, and then the two members who are still part of Queen got development, and then that one guy that left got like shut down. Go ahead, Dom.
I'm gonna bounce off. I'm gonna basically branch off of that. We're choosing this thread of the storyline, which is that yes, like I said, it comes down to the writing, how you frame this. Fundamentally, how do you tell this story? And they did it in the most pretty much bog standard way you could. I remember I did not rewatch it, and I don't think I even saw all of it. But as a kid, I remember. In the 80s and 90s, America was obsessed. Hollywood was obsessed with like a 100-hour miniseries on television, 4 TV series. Okay, maybe not 100, but like 8-hour miniseries on TV. And one of them was called The Jacksons, An American Dream. And I did watch that, and I'm like, you know what? This is engrossing. This is actually really good. Maybe it doesn't hold up if I were to watch it as an adult, but I remember being engrossed because we had. However many hours, you had Billy D. Williams as Barry Gordy, for the record. And it was oh man, I wish I had the total runtime. But either way, it was many, many hours because it's a miniseries. And you had time to develop this kind of a story.
5
hours. There you go.
5 hours.
That works. And honestly, that's still the first half. That's even before. It's just the Motown shit. And maybe his beginning solo career, but either way, that's the point I'm trying to make. Whereas with this movie, just a little bit over 2 hours, and you're trying to cram in his beginning and middle life, that's such a tall order for someone as legendary as him, as Michael Jackson. Alternative ways, more interesting ways you could have told the story was, okay, what if we focus on the brothers? You make this a true, like, okay, everyone knows Michael. What are his brothers' impact on this story, right? Because we know Joe. The best part about this movie, really true, the most interesting part and the most developed and well done part is the Joe Jackson part, is the abuse from Coleman Domingo. Not necessarily an acting thing, but he does great in acting on this thing. He looks like a fucking piece of shit in this movie because Joe Jackson
he looks like Joe Jackson, honestly.
Honestly.
Yeah, I'm not saying like that's another one they did like really good job with the makeup and everything. I know you say he looks like a piece of shit, but he does look like a Joe Jackson.
There's a scene where he's smoking cigars with Don King, another notorious piece of shit, and I'm like, okay, you can say that I think this movie is sanitized. That's like the key word everyone's throwing out. Sanitize, sanitize, sanitize. That's true. They fucking threw Joe under the bus. I'm like, next thing you know, he's sharing a brandy with Hitler or something. Like, Jesus Christ.
And what's funny is that he's got so much. Domingo has so many prosthetics on him and so much makeup. He kind of looks like a movie monster in a way.
He looks like Michael Jackson.
Which is which
Oh
is
my
what he
God.
is. And that whole scene with Don King, I just thought of like, oh my God, get these two. I don't care who plays who.
Mhm.
Would probably be the actor who plays Don King just because he's a little beefier. But I'm like, oh my God, uh, take this energy and put it in a Suge Knight movie. Like,
Ooh.
you
Okay,
know,
okay. There's
put it.
see, that's an interesting story, honestly. And that's
Well,
that's
even
not what we're getting with this. This is a highlight reel. This is fan service. Like
yeah.
borderline anime fan service in the sense.
I I don't know how you guys felt about this biopic because Steve, you didn't bring it up. But like I like Straight Outta Compton. I think Straight Outta Compton for a
Yes.
movie that encompasses a large stretch of time with many members, I think for the most part that movie like nails it. They do a great job, especially with the fact they got to juggle so many different members. And to me, I was kind of like, you know what? Like with these blockbuster biopics, I'm like, that's kind of like the standard for me now, where it's like, look, if a studio's gonna do this, that is it. Now, of course, I mean, there's ones that I love wholeheartedly more. Rocket Man, the
Thank you.
Bob Dylan one, A Complete Unknown, and I still haven't seen it, but I love Jeremy Allen White. But reading Steve's review on it makes me want to even see it more. The one for oh my God, what's it called? Uh, it was your favorite movie last year. One of your favorite movies last year with Jeremy Allen White.
Oh, Springsteen.
Springsteen, thank you. Delivered me from nowhere. I was like, I can't remember the guy's name. Um, those like to me, it's like they want to go further than that. You know, Rocket Man was being a musical, and then the other two wanted to focus on a slice of life moment
Hmm.
with this person. Even the Bob Marley one, like you said. But I was like, damn, like Straight Outta Compton really did before they got signed, when they got signed, when they started to break apart, when each of them started doing solo stuff. Fuck, when Eazy-E died. I mean, it's just like they encompass a lot, and
What?
still they pull it off really damn good. And it's just like I'm shocked with this movie. You're focusing on one person, and maybe it is that third act because I mean, I don't know if you guys knew what the third act was supposed to be about. It was supposed to go into the child allegations and everything. And it does feel sliced up and diced up and like, here you go, montage after montage and everything. Um, it does feel a bit neutered and like a little more serialized, which isn't bad because I do think the first half of this is pretty solid for the most part, but it's the second half and especially that third act. I'm like, see, these are the trappings that I find with a lot of these movies, and now I'm just like, this is kind of just running the
Uh-huh.
mill at this point.
Rocket Man is an example of a movie where they do start from his youth. Elton
Mm-hmm.
John's youth, all pretty much through at least the majority of his
Present
most,
day.
yes, more or less. And but you know how they compensate for that, make it more interesting to compensate for the straightforward approach. They do some trippy ass shit. They do some
Yeah.
trippy ass shit where they literally during the song Rocket Man, he launches into the air and explodes to show how he's like the on top of the world, but he's also like frayed at the seams. I'm like, okay, that's some like actual unique filmmaking things, artsy fartsy, but actually interesting and engaging things we can do. And they also do like I distinctly remember when they do Saturday Night's All Right for Fighting.
Oh, that's such a cool
When
sequence.
he's like a teenager and it's like or a young adult and it's like, oh no, that's like well before he released that song. So this is gonna be just it's not in tune with his timeline. It's not
Yeah.
it's not straightforward.
But the songs have significance to what's happening in that moment. They actually treat it like a
Yes.
musical where it's like he's singing about what's happening to him in this moment in time.
I'm not a big
It's
J
very
Box
creative.
musical fan, but if you're gonna do it, do something interesting with it, right?
Yeah, I agree.
I think that's one of the most
Um,
underappreciated biopics in recent
in the
times. too, is
shadow-
Rocket
Same.
Man.
I'm sad it bombed too. I was like, damn. I'm like, of course, Bohemian Rhapsody like
Yep.
made all this money, and then the next year, I'm like, well, maybe people will ride off with this one too. Nope.
Nope.
It's just like, come on.
You know the Oscars messed up. They were because Bohemian came first, and they were like,
Yeah.
well, we got to give him the Oscar for this. And then Rocket
Same
Man came
director.
out, and they were like, oh shit. Oh,
Same director too. Same
Yeah.
director because well,
Really?
technically Bohemian Rhapsody was Bryan Singer, but Bryan Singer was fired in the middle of the project,
Oh.
and then they gave it to Dexter Fletcher, and then
Yeah.
Dexter Fletcher finished Bohemian Rhapsody
Oh shit.
after directing Rocket Man, and then Rocket Man came out after. And that's how that timeline worked. I want to bring it back to you, Joe. 3 quick points about Straight Outta Compton. Why I think Straight Outta Compton works despite being comprehensive. Because Straight Outta Compton is another gem. I think there's three things. One, a lot of people forget that NWA, their first iteration was they were only together for about 4 years, about
Yeah.
3 to 4 years. They were a very short-lived group. They only had 2 albums. Like their impact was more far-reaching. Their impact as a collective was more far-reaching after they disbanded, and then when they went on, when Cube, Easy, and Dre all went on to their own solo careers. The movie Straight Outta Compton, I think starts in like the mid 80s, like 86. And I think it sort of climaxes and closes right around the LA riots,
Yeah, it does.
which
Yeah.
was 92. And what you have then, though, is a movie, too, that I think does a great job not only at articulating the group, but showcasing their impact in Compton and South LA and beyond.
Yeah.
And I think that's why Straight Outta Compton works as well as it does.
That's a good point. I didn't think
'cause-
about that because it is only just like 8 years at most, probably. Like that's about it. But I just find it so fascinating because it does juggle all these elements and they do it so damn good.
With this one though, like with this movie in particular, like if you haven't seen it yet, you got to get ready though for like Michael wants to create a solo album. Next scene, Michael's in the studio, sort of
Yeah.
like scat singing and beatboxing. Next thing you know, Off the Wall is on the shelf. It's one of those movies.
Yeah.
It's one of these movies that sort of anytime it like kind of even goes near penetrating something deeper or like a controversy. And I'm not even talking the allegations because this was well before, but I'm talking about like anytime it tries to go near a controversy or near a negative point, it's like, boom, he's recruiting
Yeah.
for the Beat It video.
It's a hard steer into the next thing. It's like, oh, okay, see, we mentioned it. You just sprinkled it. You didn't really.
Like, yeah, I mean, and as Dom said too, I haven't seen An American Dream, but I'd love to, quite frankly. You could probably make 4 or 5 movies on Michael Jackson's life alone. You could make, and they have, you could make a whole movie or miniseries on the Jackson 5. You could make a whole movie probably about the production of Thriller.
Yeah.
The album or the song or the video, take your pick. You could make a whole movie on the Bad Album, which if you go back and listen to it, the Bad Album is like a greatest hits album. It really is.
It is, yeah.
Including, which is really showcased, I think, supremely well in this movie, too, including one of my top 3 favorite MJ songs, might even be top 2, Human Nature. But here's the thing, though, with the way this thing is structured, okay, and nobody's going to have this problem because everybody's aware of Michael Jackson. There was probably a time where outside of any world leader, he was the most famous person on the face of the earth, quite frankly. If you didn't know any better, okay, if you had no idea of the story of Michael Jackson, quite frankly, the way that this movie's structured, I was thinking about this afterwards, you would probably be led to believe, especially with the cryptic way this movie sets up a sequel with the final title card, you would probably be led to believe that after the Pepsi burn incident, he went on he had a couple concerts and then died from complications of that. I was thinking about that. I'm like, if you didn't know anything,
if nuclear war breaks out and the only surviving piece of media is Michael on Blu-ray,
you would think he died from the burn or like the complications after it.
His story continues.
You know, Brett
Avengers
Arnold,
ass fuck.
Brett Arnold had the funniest clip to that. He goes, the way this thing ends, all but confirming a sequel with 3 words. His story continues. Last sentence of the review. He's dead.
That's fucked up.
But
What I was gonna say, I forgot what I was gonna mention as well, but it made me. This movie did make me go back and think about other biopics we got and what they did because it's just like. I feel like Michael Jackson does deserve a biopic like Rocket Man, a biopic like A Complete Unknown, something that's more like artistic with its vision and how it wants to present its story. Hell, even fucking Elvis, like, you know, it's just like that, like, you know, as crazy as that movie was with Baz Luhrmann directing it and like
But it
Tom
has
Hanks
style.
doing this weird accent and everything.
You know what? The opening montage before it goes into his life, the opening montage of that movie legitimately is like incredible. Like
Yeah.
one of my favorite openings to a film ever. It's unironically him
I
doing
was
the
immersed.
American Trilogy or whatever song.
I was immersed, and then CeeLo Green started playing.
Yeah. What a weird
Then
choice. But you know what? He made a choice. He made a choice. Baz Luhrmann did.
It's like I was vibing with this, and then there were guns in Romeo and Juliet. You know, I mean, it's somebody's thing. It's not mine. But completely, I know we're butting up against the intermission, and there's more to talk about. Just one other random observation doesn't affect the movie at all, but like I find it funny how selective Mike Myers has become with the roles he does.
Yeah.
And did either of you catch this?
No.
I whispered to Catherine in the theater. I said, Mike Myers is in another music biopic playing a record executive, and it's a different one than the
Yeah.
one he played in Bohemian Rhapsody. I'm like, it's marvelous. That's actually, unironically, though. Okay, this is to the larger point. Unironically, if you know Michael Jackson, like you know kind of the history of Michael Jackson and you know about his career, which I feel like I'm fairly well versed in. The, when Mike Myers plays CBS Records president Walter Yanikoff, one of the only things that this biopic taught me, and I'm not saying it's a biopic's job to, I guess it is in some ways to make me learn something about the subject, but if I'm going in already knowing, I'm a little biased. The one thing I think that this movie does kind of be informative for a lot of people is that, and it's true, he had to fight to get his shit on MTV, even when he was a star. Like, this movie oversimplifies it completely from what I went on and later read. Like, it oversimplifies it. But it was true that, like, even when he was enjoying the Beat It success, Beat It could not get on MTV, and which is astounding to me. Like, that was one of the true shocks of the movie, was like, I never knew he wasn't really blackballed. He was just ignored by MTV, like a lot of other black artists. And then they came up with Yo MTV Raps.
Yeah. Yeah, and imagine if like the movie would have been about that moment in time, and it could have had a message about, being black in the music industry and trying to, move up and everything and try to get what you want out there and everything. They could have done something like that.
It would have definitely been interesting. And that's just the sad part, though, when you have a movie like this, is that it touches on so much, and it's interesting. It's not boring. It's not a boring movie. It's just a very thin movie.
Yeah.
It's a very thin movie. There's things about it that are very good, but it's thin, and it's not deep. It's not very deep. It's entertaining, but it's not probing.
That the same way I described The Mummy last week, where I was like, your mileage of this movie depends on how much blood and gore you'll get with it. That's why I said about The Mummy, not Michael. Your mileage is going to depend how much you enjoy Michael Jackson's music, and just kind of seeing these iconic music videos, iconic moments in time with Michael being recreated with his nephew. And if it's going to depend on how much mileage you got out of that. And I love his discography. I thought it was cool, of course, like I said earlier in the review, seeing his nephew play him and everything. And I think Coleman Domingo's great as Joe Jackson. So I was entertained throughout most of this movie, and I did have a fun time with it, but I couldn't help but feel like, as I was watching, like you're saying, this is serviceable. And the guy who made all this, the guy that this movie's about, deserves way better than serviceable. And if you watch This Is It, he ain't about serviceable. He's about going all out.
And This Is It. Catherine and I rewatched it last week. Exceptional movie.
Well, amazing documentary.
Exceptional documentary. Like, I mean, beyond the fact that it's stuff that we were never supposed to see, I remember seeing it in theaters in '09. And I think everybody was kind of expecting, since he died, from that cocktail of drugs, everybody was kind of expecting him to be sickly or like aged.
No, he's like...
And he is on it, man.
Yeah.
And he is alert, and he is cordial, but he is demanding, and he is particular, which shouldn't come as a surprise. But for all the myth making about him and everything, and the iconic stature, for him to like dance along with the choreographers
Mhm.
and like pause in the middle of it and like instruct them, even telling the piano player how to play a particular note, like
Yeah.
is just stuff that you never get. That footage would have never seen the light of day. And it is truly one of the most amazing BTS concert documentaries you'll ever see. When we come back really quickly after our Zoom sponsored intermission, one scene that I found really particularly moving in this movie. It's a quick one. I wish it would have went on a little bit longer, but I found it particularly moving. Sleepless with Steve live on YouTube. We come to you live and in living color every Wednesday night, reviewing Michael. Back in a couple minutes with Joe Viso and Dominic Guanzon right here on Sleepless with Steve. Don't go anywhere. Back and better than ever. Back from our Zoom sponsored intermission. It's Sleepless with Steve live on YouTube. We're talking the new Michael Jackson biopic, known simply as Michael. Real quick, I know I started the intermission talking. I'm resuming the intermission talking, so I'll be quick on this. But one scene I really liked. I really enjoyed from this thing, and I think it's just because like it's not there's a lot of scenes in this of Michael performing. There's a lot of scenes of Michael recording. There's a lot of scenes at Michael at odds with his dad. There's a lot of kind of you could really put each scene into one of those three buckets and each one would fill up pretty quickly. You know what scene I love is when Michael comes home from the toy store with Twister and he comes home with Twister, and he wants to play with his brothers, and they're all grown at this point. They're all
Yeah.
in their
Yeah,
20s.
Yeah.
And his brothers like roll their eyes at him, and Michael is substantially younger than all of them. He was the lead of the Jackson 5, and he was substantially like 10. He was substantially younger. But he never got that kind of experience, you know what I mean? Because he was thrust into the limelight so young. And the movie really contextualizes that in that scene. So he plays Twister with Bubbles and the chimp. And it's just this really cute scene of like Michael trying to instruct Bubbles like how to play Twister, and Bubbles is a chimp, so he obviously doesn't know. And I don't know why. There's a real innocence to that scene, and there's just a real humanity to that scene. And I wish it could have went on a couple beats longer, I thought, but like I thought it was a great moment. I thought it was like something I would have wanted a little bit more of from this is those quieter moments.
A bold director or writer would have looked at that scene and been like, you know what? We're going to frame the whole thing around Bubbles. This is going to be...
CGI director's like, fuck.
All right, get Andy Serkis in here. But... no,
Is the primate from Primate available?
But honestly, like, I am really pining... Because it's Michael effing Jackson. He's one of the most interesting people to have ever lived, period. And it's like, you could have done so many cool things with his story. And instead, we get pretty much exactly what we get on his albums. We get exactly what we get on his press releases. Stuff stuff that we've already seen, sometimes for minutes on end, on just YouTube clips. Like, bro, did we really need to put that much into Billie Jean? Like, I get it. It's a big... Or look. The Billie Jean performance at Meltdown 25 is a seminal moment in his history, in I guess broadcast history, in Black history, et cetera, et cetera. There could have been
when he did that moonwalk live, I mean that was
everything.
That was sensational on
that
TV.
Was everything.
Yeah.
And it's like you could have done a lot more with it. Instead, it's just cuts to the audience, different angles of the same footage we've seen a million times.
Yeah, it's also edited not the best too.
I don't think it is either. Yeah, there was something weird about it. It was just blasé. And I'm like, man, someone with a visionary could have like cut to his dad doing something. Could have cut to, I don't know, just a different framing. If you notice this whole review, I've been trying to rewrite this movie into something just more interesting, and that's not what we get. But you know what? Like I said with another movie recently that I already forgot, the Mario movie. Is this a good film, or is this a good like artistic piece? I don't think so, but it is a good product. And look, the next day, I just found myself playing the Thriller album on Spotify.
Dude,
I found
I've been listening to Off the Wall, Thriller, and Bad.
Well, for the record, Off the Wall is in like a constant, because that is my favorite Michael Jackson album of all time.
Yeah,
because it's the coming out of his, it's a disco album, right? And I love disco, right? So that's
Rock With You is like top 5 for me. Exactly. I love that song.
That's song. It's everything off of Off the Wall. And then they don't really care about us for just randomly throwing it.
Oh, I love that. Dude, I love that.
I even listened to Even Worse by Weird Al Yankovic because I just want to hear the parody. Because I'm just like, dude, I'm in such a mood right now. It's like I don't want to listen to that.
I listen to Eat It probably 3 or 4 times a year at least.
Okay, total tangent. I'll make it as quick as possible. At the Broadview ICE detention facility, there is a rabbi. There is a black rabbi who will play music off of his own like he has it on a cart, like a pull cart, like a sound system, hooked up to his phone and with like a microphone and everything. And he'll just like he'll like rouse the audience, or not the audience, rouse the protesters and stuff with music and with speeches and very impromptu stuff. Very interesting individual. But the first song he will play during a march, the first song he will play is They Don't Really Care About Us by Michael Jackson. So now a bunch of photojournalists that are familiar with Broadview, every time in the distance they hear They Don't Really Care About Us. Oh fuck, the rabbi's starting something here. Hold on. Get the cameras ready.
There's 2 versions of that song. There's 2 versions of that song too.
It was a lot of controversy, which I think I look, you can fault Michael Jackson for a lot of things. I don't think that was one of them. I think yeah.
Yeah, there's 2 different versions. There's the one that's filmed in Brazil, And they're two different songs. They're two different two different songs. And then you have the prison version of that
Yes.
song, which was directed by Spike Lee, and
Yeah.
that is
Spike
another
Lee
top.
did that one.
He did the video, the
Shit.
prison video.
Wow.
And yeah, it's tremendous. He did the Bad 25 documentary too in 2012.
Okay.
Lee did, but no, that's a tremendous song. I actually wrote a 2-page. I actually did a 2-page report on that song in 8th grade.
Wow.
nice.
They don't really care about us. I love that.
Why wasn't
song.
that in the movie?
Yeah. I know that came too late. That came in the that came post allegations. I think in the mid 90s. I want to say 96, 97.
No, I was making a joke like, why wasn't your report in the movie?
Even more. To quote Weird Al, even worse.
That
The
is
story continues.
That's the
in Steve's
framing we
essay.
needed. That's the framing we needed.
Yeah, right. But yeah, and you know what's funny? If we're just talking MJ albums here briefly, Invincible is still the most expensive album ever made. That was his last. That was his last of new material, rather, like his brand new album material. Because he only has, I think, maybe 7 albums, not including Blood on the Dance Floor and His Story and a bunch of other ones that are kind of half new, half compilations. There's Off the Wall, Dangerous, Thriller, Bad, Invincible. Do
you count Escape or no?
No, because Michael and Escape. Those were, and I like some cuts off of Escape, and I like some cuts off of Michael.
Chicago's a good song. I like Chicago.
Chicago's a good song. Hollywood Tonight's a great song. Hold My Hand with Akon is really good. There's that 50 Cent one, which is weird. The Breaking News song, which I don't even think was him, but that's like a posthumous release. It's like I look at Biggie Smalls only had 2 albums. Born Again was posthumous. They had to rework that because that came out after he died. I look at what was released in his lifetime of new music, and I think he only had maybe 6 records, truly, because every one had 8 singles. Everyone had 8 singles. That's why you're led to believe it's like Shania. Shania was so big. Shania's only got 4 albums, at most. But anyway, though, there's this is one of those movies I feel like too. It's if you're going into it expecting to relive the joys and the entertainment that Michael Jackson brought you, I think there's value there. I think there's millions of people that went to see this movie for that exact reason. I was kind of caught, and this is probably very disrespectful. I was kind of, before even the news about the reshoots came out and everything. What really kind of quelled my expectations for the thing was Antoine Fuqua, one of the most milquetoast directors that you can find. Quite frankly, I know Training Day is great. Day's great. He peaked early.
Trained is one of my favorite movies. However, with him as a director, his more recent stuff is kind of man, you're almost becoming a director for hire at this point. In fact, you probably are at this point.
He is a director for hire. Yeah. He absolutely
the Equalizer.
What was it? The Denzel Washington movies he made with him, the Equalizer movies. Those are just run-of-the-mill action films with Denzel. Honestly, I hate to say it, not even hate to say it, but what's his name? David Ayer. I think has at least a bit more, has done at least a little bit more art stuff, or unique vision with stuff like Fury. That's more recent than the last time I can remember Fuqua's last movie. I went damn, that was really, really good.
Yeah, he's the king of decent movies. He's the king of decent movies that aren't. And
so you picked him for the king of pop movie? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, exactly. But Southpaw, the remake of Magnificent Seven.
I forgot he made Southpaw. That is such a decent movie.
It is such a solid movie. And King Arthur was another one that he did. And you feel this is really if I had more of a platform, I'd get aggregated. But it feels like he doesn't direct the movie directs him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or the studio. When I say that, I mean the studio executives. They're Antoine's not gonna pull a Spike Lee and demand certain things. He's going to do what we tell him to do. Like, he doesn't have for a guy who's made so many movies that have like 9-figure budgets, he doesn't really have a directorial style about him. I
Yeah.
don't feel like he has any hallmarks, which is weird to say because, again, like, Training Day is so great. But, yeah, but
His documentary about blues music, Lightning in the Bottle, that's a good one. And I kind of wish, like, I was kind of hoping with him directing that. I mean, I know that's years ago, but I was kind of hoping, I'm like, well, okay, he made a documentary. Maybe he'll find a unique way to do Michael Jackson. It's like, no, okay, we're just kind of following the format.
Yeah, and like even too, you can tell Training Day was what 25 fucking years ago, and it says from the director of Training Day on the poster.
Doesn't go from the director of The Magnificent Seven, the remake.
Like, that already tells you. Yeah, and they put from the producers of Bohemian Rhapsody above it. Like,
I mean, the director of Lil Wayne's Mirror music video.
These choices are made with being cognizant. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, with how big of a hit this movie is, honestly, they're probably gonna put from the director of Michael, like, for future things and Training.
Probably. Oh, probably. Because I opined before you jumped on too. I said this thing is going to flirt with $1 billion.
Yeah.
Like, this thing is going to flirt with $1 billion, and it will probably be, when all's said and done, the highest grossing music biopic, which is an achievement in itself. I think really the last major point I want to make, though, and we've talked about it here, Jafar is really good. Jafar is really good when it comes to emulating Michael the performer. We don't get enough of him as Michael the person.
No.
I feel
Yeah.
like we don't get enough of it. We get a little bit. We get flirtations of it in, like, the toy store and the hospital and stuff like that. We get, like, the flirtations of it. Jafar is very good. He really is. Kind of in, like, a mimicry sense. Coleman Domingo, I think, is the performance of the movie, though.
Yeah.
I think Coleman Domingo, even when he's not on screen, his presence looms large. He has this, like, this anger and aggressiveness about him that just sort of pops up. When they're rehearsing the Jackson 5, you're just waiting for him to pause them and criticize, particularly Michael. Like,
And then take out the belt.
yes, like, he is so good here. And I think that's one of the lasting memories. Because even when you joined, Joe, what I was talking about too is I said, you don't really get to know anybody here either. It's Michael and Joe pretty much.
Yeah.
Miles Teller
Even
is the
then,
entertainment
even
lawyer.
then.
Miles Teller is the entertainment lawyer. He pops up a little bit. You have his bodyguard, who's just kind of like at his beckoning call. You don't.
Yeah.
The brothers are faceless. Faceless. Janet's not in the movie. Latoya, like,
Which is crazy. I was like, damn, like, they actually didn't put Janet Jackson in this.
Janet didn't want to be in it. Janet didn't want.
Oh, that's right. You're right.
She's
Okay,
like
yeah.
the only one that's not an executive producer. If you watch the credits, Latoya, Jermaine, Tito's dead, but Janet's not. Janet wanted no involvement in this thing, for whatever reason. I don't know, and I don't want to opine. But I was hoping, if anything, they would look, because Michael was always closest with Latoya. I was hoping there would be a little bit of them, like, together as kids, because they were close to the end. Him and Latoya, that was like one of his best friends, in addition to being his sister. Like, I would have. You just don't get any interpersonality here, like, between anybody. It's really just it's really, which I guess is like a commentary in itself, that, like, Michael was so big, it was like, who was he close to? You know what I mean? But you don't have that here. You get a movie that's really entertaining, and a lot of times some really well done concert recreations, but a movie that doesn't probe its subject on a very deep level when you consider some other biopics.
Yeah. I mean, looking at this movie, there are so many, like, I don't have an issue with this movie making a Michael Jackson movie making $1 billion. The issue I have with it is that, damn, for someone who is an icon in music, in entertainment, in the Black community, like, bro, half my my theater was like 50% full. It was I think it was an odd time I was watching it, but I think everyone was there was Black. But man, it just was kind of a milquetoast movie, to the point where I was expecting, like, a fun time in this theater that I'm sitting in. I'm like, all right, we're gonna get some reactions here. There was barely anything in that theater, bro. No one was saying anything, and I'm like, wow, maybe that's on me to expect that. But I mean, like in any Jordan Peele movie I watch, there's an audience. And like we get some reactions, and I'm like, oh hell! Yeah. I know it's not a horror movie, but do you understand what I'm saying? It's like this will
If
make
the movie focused on bubbles, it would have been.
But like, look, all I'm saying is it actually for someone who I think should be critiqued a lot more. And I think the was it Escaping Neverland, the documentary, Leaving
Leaving Neverland.
Yes, yes. Which I have not watched. I'm almost horrified to watch it, but
you will not be able to watch it.
You can't. I think HBO. Yeah, go ahead.
It's lost media now, right? But
yeah, it is.
Go ahead, Steve.
I'm sure you can find it on those. I did not know that actually until this week when I was republishing Mike MJ reviews. You cannot watch that movie anymore because there was a lawsuit. The Jackson estate sued HBO and the family. I think the one of the conditions they won. One of the conditions was that HBO had to delete that movie. You cannot watch that thing anymore. That 2-part Leaving Neverland documentary.
Yeah, it's just sad to see that this is it a sanitation. I think it is, even unintentionally, but I think intentionally as well. The part that sells it for me is Miles Teller's character, John Bronca, where it's like, hold on, this seems too like insider baseball. What is going on here? This guy looks way too good in the eyes of this movie. And then you look on his like Wikipedia page, and it's like 5 paragraphs in a section called public service. I'm like, oh yeah, I know who's editing this, and it's him. I know it is. Which maybe it's all true, good for him, but like, man, this is unfortunate. This is really. I kind of want to watch that miniseries now, even though I have no time for it. But because they released a sequel to that 5-hour miniseries in the 90s, and I think it did handle the allegation. So I'm very curious to see what it does with that. I think Janet Jackson is a character, so like Jesus Christ, I don't know. Where did we want to go with this? Sorry, that was Dom's soapbox this week.
No, you're fine. No, you're fine. I was just wondering if Joe had anything to add. That's why I paused.
No, I don't. I was actually sitting here waiting. I'm like, oh, I think Dom's about to drop his star rating. So I was just
if you want to give your star rating, if you want to give your star rating, D, by all means.
Okay, yeah, no, this is
or anything else.
This is a 2 out of 4 star movie for me, honestly. Like. This is the best Michael Jackson movie you could make within this lens, within this very narrow lane. Like, yeah, this looks great for him. It really does. Dance sequences are hot. You have pretty much the best Michael Jackson casting you could possibly have. Not just in a familial sense, but just, yeah, he's got it. It's in, I guess it's in the blood for him. But like, there's so many unfortunate things surrounding this movie, and fundamentally just makes it an uninteresting piece of art. Really, my line is, and Joe, you mentioned it, but like in a world of Michaels and Bohemian Rhapsodies, be a Rocket Man, do something interesting with it.
Yeah,
please have fun with it.
Yeah,
there's something to be said maybe about the formula is if the person's dead, you should be very apprehensive of the movie, but if the dude's alive and like willing to poke fun at himself, like Elton John, then I guess I don't know. That's not a tried and true thing, but yeah, for Michael, it's got to be 2 out of 4 stars for me, and it's gonna do so well in the box office, but I do wonder where time will take it.
Yeah, for me it's 2.5. Like I said, I mean, like, your mileage is gonna depend on how much you enjoy these Michael Jackson movies, because Michael Jackson songs, the music videos, all the stuff that made you a fan of him. It's really gonna depend if you actually really like this movie or not, which, I know some critics have been really bashing on this thing, and it's like, well, they might not be as big of a fan as like most audience members are. Like, I had a friend text me, they're like, can you believe that it has a 34% and the audience score is 95? They don't know what they're talking about. I wanted to tell them, like, I mean, I saw the movie. It ain't all that, bro. I wanted to tell them, like, hey, you know what? This movie should be called This Ain't It. Just like, this ain't cutting it, bro. But like I said, the parts of this movie I do enjoy. And Steve, to your credit, I really wish they did more stuff like the game board scene with Twister. Would have been a really cool examination of him realizing he didn't get a childhood and actually more exploring that. Even though that is stuff we know, it would have been really cool to see that act out. But Whenever Joe Jackson is on screen with Michael, this movie's great. It pulls me in. The acting between the two are really good. During the Jackson 5 segments, I really enjoyed that time there. But as the movie got longer, the more it felt like, okay, yeah, we're just hitting the same notes that I've seen in these other biopics that I've either really disliked, like the Bob Marley movie, or just thought was okay, like Bohemian Rhapsody. And this falls more in line with Bohemian Rhapsody. I just think it's okay. It's fine for what it is. The fans are gonna love it. It's gonna be a box office hit and everything. And if you're a Michael Jackson fan and you haven't seen it by now, you're gonna go see it, even despite what we're saying here. For me, it is 2.5 out of 4 stars.
Yeah, that's what I gave it to. 2.5 out of 4 stars because I get the entertainment value from it. I did get quite a bit of entertainment value from it. I think Jafar is great. I think Coleman is great. And I think that there's a lot of individual sequences that are really good here and that are really stirring. It's just not emotionally stirring. At least it wasn't for me.
Yeah.
It wasn't, and it wasn't as, and especially when you consider like how specific A Complete Unknown and Springsteen Deliver Me From Nowhere were. And even Rocket Man, which was more comprehensive, but the style really ballooned Rocket Man to a new level. And then you had like Straight Outta Compton, which again, more comprehensive in its story, but a shorter time period on which it's covering. You have all that. And like you look at this and there's a more truncated, there's a more narrow in scope movie to make on this that's better, and Michael deserves better in so many respects. Like as far as a more, I guess, stirring and artistically potent film is concerned too. This is going to have legs though. This thing is going to linger. I'm telling you, this is going to be, it's already a massive hit. It's going to be a massive hit. It's funny too, because again, we were talking about the reshoots. The reshoots ballooned this movie's budget up another like 20 million or so. I was talking about this again earlier, Joe, before you signed on. This thing's got a budget between 165 million to 200 million. Most of the time in cases like this, the movie's a historic fucking flop. Most of the time, you can see it coming a mile away. You can see it coming. It happened with Madam Web. Like anytime reshoots are involved, you are just it's going to be brutal. Like you're going now. You've got a way bigger budget. You got a way bigger mess on your hands. You got a PR mess. It doesn't matter with this. This will probably be one of the messiest productions to make the most money. Like in that way, just because of how defining globally Michael Jackson is for so many people. But yeah, there we have it. Kind of a last minute thing though, too, just due to scheduling conflicts too. We're going to be off next week. So there's no show next week. We're coming back around with what we're going to come back around with is actually something Joe suggested. I looked at the calendar really briefly before
which I'm cool with changing if you want to do something that is in theaters. I mean, this was kind of like anticipating because like I was like, I don't really want to go see Mortal Kombat 2. I can care less
about either.
Really, Joe? I don't care about it either, but I feel like you would be the one to actually like be into that.
I fucking hated that first one. I watched it twice.
Right.
I watched it high and I
now.
forgot everything about it, and then I watched it normally. Probably shouldn't admit that on air, but then I watched it normally. I'm like, damn, this does suck.
I mean, yeah, it was kind of whatever. Sorry, just quick pivot back to the Jackson Michael movie. Is I want to see the Berry Gordy Motown movie. Because they're not going to do that dirty. That one's good. It's going to get into the dirt, into the grind with that movie. Yeah. I want that. And you know who? I want Laura Harrier back as Suzanne DePass in that movie because she was eating up every second of that. Every second she was on film with Coleman Domingo like looking at her the whole time. I'm like, Jesus Christ. But anyway, yeah, I think for next week we're just going to have to call it. But
that's fine.
We'll come back swinging.
I think it's not a bad idea, though. I know Joe suggested it, though, American Graffiti for 2 weeks from today, which I'm all for. That's a movie I have not seen since high school. So
I'm down for it.
It absolutely warrants a rewatch. And you know what? It's funny. I'm all for rewatching movies on a whim. Catherine and I went and saw Fight Club in theaters on Sunday night. And I'll just say, like, if you haven't seen that movie in a while, like I hadn't seen it in about 15 years. It was kind of like watching it for the first time all over again. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? It's one of those movies that like it's so visceral, and I didn't really think too much because we saw it really last. We decided to see it really last minute. I didn't have time to marinate over it, but like seeing it on the big screen, 4K, was just like, man, this movie looks phenomenal on the big screen. And I know we're not going to have the privilege of American Graffiti in that context, but I am very interested to see that movie again because it's one of the defining movies of the 70s.
Yeah.
Also, one of the earliest, I believe, one of the earliest 4-star reviews from Roger Ebert too. One of the earliest when he wrote about it during its
Wow,
initial
okay.
run. So, very excited to check that out though. I appreciate you hosting tonight, Dom. I know in a pinch. I appreciate you. I appreciate you loaning your talents once again to this show, as always, like you do. As I buy time when Joe waltzes back. What you got for us, Joe?
No, I was like, I think it's the 50th anniversary edition I got, and it is, yeah.
Okay, yeah, yeah, that makes sense.
So
I'm excited to rewatch it. I really am.
yeah, it will be. I'll say it later. Never mind. I don't want to reveal that. You know, next thing you know, we get shut down by studios.
Oh, I understand. I understand. I understand. Sharing is caring. That's our show tonight, though. We come to you live and in living color on Sleepless with Steve every Wednesday evening at 6:30 Central Time. Always great when this group gets together. Couple weeks off next week, back the following week with a required viewing / retro review of American Graffiti. For Dominic